Hello and welcome to another episode of She Builds with AI, Women Shaping the Future, the podcast where we celebrate women who are shaping the future with technology. I'm your host, Julia Lach, and today I'm joined by a guest whose journey takes us from finance to data science, from San Francisco to the heart of fashion innovation. Chang Liu is the co-founder and CEO of Plush, an AI-powered fashion discovery platform designed to take the endless scrolling out of online shopping. Think of it as talking to a stylist who truly gets you. For example, if I type in lightweight flowing maxi dress with soft pastel colors up to $500 in size small, she will understand that nuanced request and find matches across different brands. Before launching Plush, Chang studied at Yale, worked in finance, and later became data science and product manager at DoorDash. Inspired by her own frustrations with shopping, she set out to build a smarter, AI-driven way to find the right clothes. In this conversation, we'll dive into her founder journey, the aha moment behind Plush, the role of AI in transforming fashion discovery, and her vision for the future of shopping. And of course, we'll end with a fun peek into some of the quirkiest searches people have tried on Plush. You're going to love this one. Let's get right into it. A warm welcome, Chang.
Thank you, Julia.
Chang, your journey has been pretty unique, from being born and raised in China to studying at Yale, starting in finance at Wellington Management, and later transitioning into tech roles. Can you walk us along your career path in more detail?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I recognize my career journey has been pretty unique because I've, done, I guess 5 different roles so far. But I do think looking back, those transitions have been pretty intentional. So when I started my career, I was fresh out of college. I knew I wanted to sort of dive into the world of business, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Finance was the path a lot of my classmates took, and I just thought that was a really good way to learn about different business models. So I started off as a buy-side analyst at Wellington Management, which is a big institutional active asset manager based in Boston. So I was investing in sectors such as consumer, fintech, software. I was also investing across different business classes like long-short equity, dividend growth, high yield. So I learned a lot about what makes different business models tick. So while I was there, we're just constantly really inspired by entrepreneurs coming through for IPO meetings that were solving a lot of real world problems. And for me, I had always just felt like, wow, okay, investing is great, right? It's very intellectually stimulating, but you're kind of a observer, like looking at how other people do things, like you're not actually sort of out there solving the real problems. So for me, I had always just found online shopping really frustrating. Like I really wanted to solve that problem myself. So I just really inspired by entrepreneurs coming through for these IPO meetings. And one of them was actually Katrina Lake. So I met her in my last year there. She came through for the Stitch Fix IPO. And I just felt really inspired because she felt like both she and I are kind of just regular girls who just are really into fashion. But she's actually out there changing the way people shop. I just thought that's actually so inspiring. So that's actually one of the pivotal moments that made me think, okay, I wanted to learn what it's like to be an operator and hopefully one day can be like her and changing the way people shop. So after that, I decided to switch to tech. I knew San Francisco was where the action was and every store is, obviously. And so decided to move to San Francisco. So my first job in tech was actually finance and strategy at Square. So I knew I really liked fintech back then. I thought I could put my finance skills to use. So I was on the corporate finance and strategy team. I was looking at capital allocation. And so for me, that was a great role in terms of helping me understand like corporate finance. But soon enough, I realized that if I want to one day be a founder myself, I needed to get closer into products. So I taught myself data science and I became the first analytics hire at a social shopping startup called Dote, D-O-T-E. They are a social shopping app. Well, this is back in 2019. So I joined the company and I really loved the experience. I just was very passionate about the problem they were trying to solve, which is the discovery problem in fashion. And I remember, like multiple weekends, even holidays. I remember there was July 4th weekend. We were up in Tahoe. The weather was beautiful. Everybody wanted to go to the beach and go on a boat. And I was there. I still actually looking at the creator feedback model. And I just didn't feel bad about it because I was just so passionate about the work I was doing. So I remember thinking back then, wow, this is so much fun. One day I really wanted to build a company in the same space myself. So unfortunately, that experience was kind of short-lived. The company didn't do well. They had to shut down. So after that, I thought I first really wanted to still learn, deepen my experience in data science, ideally in a e-commerce adjacent company. And also I knew I wanted to eventually transition to product because that's going to teach me a lot of, practical experiences about how to take product from 0 to 1. So I wanted to find a company where I easily transition from a data science role to a product role. So the data science role at DoorDash really, really checked my box. So I joined DoorDash, was the first data scientist on the DashPass team. So DashPass is the subscription program of DoorDash. So when I joined, the team was super small, 4 people with tens of thousands of users. And I was the first data scientist. So when I joined, I really helped them think through, okay, how do you do different growth experiments? What are the different things you can test? How do you improve retention? How do you think about the economics when negotiating a partnership with Chase? So a ton of really, really exciting initiatives. So over the course of 2 years, I helped them scale basically over 100x to 10 million users. And I also learned a lot about data science during that process. I became head of data science. I grew a team. So really enjoyed it. But I also knew, eventually I wanted to found a company. So I still really wanted to transition to product. So it was hard really saying go back to that role, but I knew product was a better role for me. So I switched to the homepage recommendation discovery team and became a PM there. So that was a really great role because a lot of the stuff I learned there were directly applicable to what I'm doing today at Plush. So, and then, after 2 years on the product team where, we shipped a ton of products. Actually, I would say if you open DoorDash today, probably 80% of the products were either created or improved by my team. And so that's a really proud moment today. Whenever I use DoorDash, I still feel just really, really proud and happy. And then after 2 years there, with the advancement in a lot of AI technologies, I was like, okay, I feel like I've learned enough and the technology for doing something I want is finally here. So I finally took the leap and became a founder myself, even though I know there have been a ton of transitions, but I do think it was a very intentional step-by-step to try to get to where I eventually want to be.
Super unique and super exciting career path. Really, really interesting. And I'm super excited for you that you eventually took that leap into founding your own business. Really, really exciting. You said that during your investing days, you met many entrepreneurs, including Katrina Lake of Stitch Fix, who inspired you. Maybe there were a couple of others. What was it about those encounters or their stories in particular that sparked your entrepreneurial drive?
Yeah, I think that honestly, it was 2 things. Is just recognizing a lot of those entrepreneurs started out just like I was, right? I think Katrina Lake actually had a very similar experience. She started, finance consulting and similar to me, and she saw a problem and she literally just started the solution from her dorm room at Harvard HBA and just going door to door trying to solve that problem. Initially people even thought, her solution was ridiculous, right? And so she had a bit of a difficult start, and I was like, well, that's just super inspiring because, just like me, I am someone who loves online shopping, who has idea about how to make it better. But she was actually just immediately started out there doing things, right? I just always admire people who are out there on the field. That's something that really inspired me. And I think another thing was just their passion for what they're doing. I think just observing up close, while those entrepreneurs were deeply passionate about the problem they were solving. And that really resonated with me. I do think still to this day, right, you got to be really passionate and mission driven about the issue you're solving, because being a founder is really, really hard. And if you don't have this innate sense of mission to ultimately solve this issue to make the world better, I think that like you're not going to last very long. Those things truly are what inspire me.
I can really resonate with those reasons as well. Being a founder is super hard, and having that passion, like that intrinsic motivation, is going a really long way. Chang, you've worn many hats: investor, data scientist, product manager, and now CEO. How have those different experiences prepared you for running Plush? Are there skills or lessons from those roles that you find especially valuable as a founder?
Yeah, I think looking back, I definitely feel very lucky because I'm able to draw on experiences from all those roles that I have done in the past. So being an investor really taught me how to identify patterns that separate lasting products from hype. It really taught me a lot of practical lessons about what makes a business great. Is it, I'm constantly asking myself, what is the moat of the business? What is something they do that other people just don't do that well, right? And sometimes what makes a business great is just their ability to generate cash flow. And sometimes it's because they have a great unit economics, even though they were in a hard sector. So DoorDash is one of those businesses. And then sometimes a business is great because they have great leadership, right? Just a really great team with very strong execution power. And sometimes maybe it's because of regulation. And I think being able to think through what makes a business model tick in different industries just gave me a sense of like, okay, like if I were to build my own business one day in this particular sector that is like e-commerce and shopping and discovery, it taught me a lot about the kind of business I want to build. And then later as a corporate finance analyst, I learned a lot about the practical skills of like, for example, how do you build a payback model, right? It's not just theoretical. You have to really think through all the expenses that are happening in your business and identify what's truly recurring and what's truly variable, and like combine that with accounting and make sure your business actually, runs. And I think that is like a very, very practical skill, a very nice skill to have. Being a data scientist really taught me just like how do you basically read between the lines and numbers and see what that's telling you about your product, and trying to get measurable signals from those data so that you're not just going with your intuition, you're going with very concrete, measurable evidence. And that has been a really, really good skill to have. Even today, a ton of times, when I'm feeling like, wow, like there's so many things we could be building at Plush, my first intuitions always go back to numbers. Like, hey, like what are the numbers telling us? Because when you talk to customers, they can tell you all different things, right? And it's really hard to talk to enough people to get a representative sample. Numbers, they just never lie. That is a really good skill to have. And then I think lastly, being a product manager, I would say I learned the most from their job. So I would say from like a mindset perspective, I learned a lot about how do you basically have empathy for the end user, right? Because as a founder, it's tempting to build, for example, what's easy or maybe like what's really good for revenue or something. But ultimately, as a consumer product, you need to truly like stand in the shoes of the user and think about, okay, is this going to make their life better? If you build something, can they truly understand what the product is for? Do they immediately know how to use it, right? That's something that mindset is really important. And I think from a process perspective, I learned a lot about how do you work with different people, data scientists, design, user research, right? How do you really bring down the strengths in each and like build a team and then build towards a great product in the end? And also, how do you ship something really quickly? So one thing I learned while DoorDash is this idea of a minimal, lovable product. So people always saying, MVP, ship quickly. But I think it's really important to think, okay, like how do we do the bare minimum, create a product that still is lovable by people?
Yeah.
Right? Like, because if you want to get a signal on why something works or not, you need to have some sort of basic criteria, basic things that make people really, really love it. So using that concept really helps me think about how do you ship products? How do you iterate fast and user feedback? And then other things, for example, how do you decide what to build when there are like so many competing priorities? How do you prioritize? Those are all like really, really good skills to have. And I think another thing, and then there's just like a lot of technical things I learned that are just directly translatable because essentially I was working on the same set of features, discovery, recommendation, and search. So a lot of practical things, for example, how do you build a great merchandising carousel that's dynamic, right? Or how do you like recommendation and personalization products, like when to rely on heuristics, when to build a dynamic model, like all those things I learned at DoorDash, I'm like applying it every day to the process of building Plush. And I would say lastly, one really important takeaway was understanding the importance of having clean, structured data at the foundation of your recommendation products. When I was at DoorDash, this is really interesting. Like I would say 3 years ago, we actually didn't even have the data as to what we're selling at the product level, whether we're selling a burger or a sandwich. We just like didn't have that kind of data. And then we basically got those data labeled. And then immediately after that, we were able to build a ton of like great personalization products. So that made me realize, okay, like having that really detailed understanding of data, right? Large scale, clean structured data at the foundation of your product is really, really important. So that's why today when we're building Plush, like that lesson always stays with me. Like we got to leverage all the advances in AI to make sure at our core, we have this like large scale foundational data that's very clean, structured. I deeply believe that's really, really important for whatever product we build. It's really important for e-commerce. So yeah, really lucky to be able to draw upon experiences from all these different roles that I have done in the past. Even though it took me many twists and turns to get here, but I definitely think those different roles were not wasted.
Definitely led you where you are, made you who you are today. Really, really cool. I think like as a founder, it's like particularly helpful to be like all-rounder, like to benefit from a lot of different skills and experiences that you had along the way, which you can all pour into your business at last. Really, really cool. Talking about Plush, what specific problem in fashion or online shopping were you trying to solve when you started Plush? Was there a particular frustrating shopping experience or insight that made you go, there has to be a better way, I'm going to build it?
Yeah, absolutely. The problem I was really trying to solve was just the fact that searching online shopping was just so bad that like you just have to scroll endlessly every time when you try to find something, right? Like I've had so many experiences where I'm like, okay, I sort of know what I want, but I just couldn't find it. So many times where, for example, I tried to find a dress to a wedding, actually a white party the night before. And so we needed to wear something that's like a white dress. And I was imagining something that's like structured and chic, but like not too revealing. I remember this back in like 2017 or something. It was really trendy to have those like really high slits on the side of your legs. And I was like, okay, that's just not me. And when I was going through it on the websites, it's like all these like dresses with high slits. I was like, okay, how do I just not see them? But everything I see is high slits or like exposed belly or like something that's just not structured enough. So I had always found that to be super, super frustrating. And then ultimately, I think the root cause is, online shopping wasn't built for how humans think. It was built for how databases think, right? So that caused two issues. One is these sort of filters and like search capability are just not nuanced enough. So going back to my example, you can't just simply say like no side slits or like no strong shoulders, right? Or like solid color, and you also search also doesn't understand those nuanced criteria. So that, and women's tastes are, very nuanced. We're never just looking for just a white dress, right? There are actually a lot of those preferences. So yeah, so I think that's one big issue. And the second issue is, online shopping doesn't really understand how humans actually think. You can't really search in a way that you actually think about fashion. So for example, people usually say, I'm thinking a cozy chic outfit for Thanksgiving without trying too hard, right? That's how they actually think. But you can't just type that into your search query. You have to really think hard and translate that into maybe some sort of filters or plain language. And that just makes shopping very frustrating and not intuitive. And with a lot of advancements in AI, I just really saw the opportunity to completely change that and transform shopping into something drastically more intuitive, personalized, and delightful. So that's really the problem I was going after.
Really cool. Yeah, talking about new AI capabilities, you started developing Plush around the time when new capabilities like multimodal models became available. How did these advancements make Plush possible in a way that couldn't have been done just a few years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. You are absolutely right that, I think Plush wouldn't have been possible even just 2.5 years ago. So they're having a lot of capabilities that have made building something like Plush possible. I would say number one is multimodal understanding of the model, right? In the past, models can deal with languages, but fashion is very visual, right? There are probably a million black lace dresses out there, but what makes them all different from each other is these subtle visual cues, right? Things like the fabric, how the fabric looks and feel, and the silhouette, and like how revealing the neckline is, and like how the shape of the shoulder, like a million different things, right? So when the models are trained on these hundreds of millions of image and text pairs, they start to put together all these image, style cues, and text. That's when models can truly see fashion the way sort of humans do. And that makes building a foundational understanding of the fashion database possible like never before. And I think the second thing is just the advancement of instruction-tuned LLMs, right? Like these large language models can not only understand text, the contextual cues behind the text much better than before, but they can also translate that into a set of very concrete parameters that our system can understand. So they can really advance the systematic capabilities on top of it. So today, when you type in something like elevated basics of Plush, the model can immediately understand, like, when you say that, like, what does that mean? Well, it means maybe it's neutral colors, maybe it's structured fabrics, maybe it's not much logo, maybe it's high quality fabrics, right? So all those contextual understanding, and we then translate those translated language, right, into a set of parameters our search can understand. So that capability makes it possible to build the kind of search that we're building today. And I would say the third one really is, I would say, just like much better embedded models. We have those vector embedding models before, but the arrival of large language models just make them a lot better. And nowadays you can easily get a vector representation of the search query. Hey, I want something that's modern and chic for a wedding in a Tuscan villa. You can get a vector representation and maybe match that to like the embeddings of our products. They can do that on the fly, and that's really, really powerful. Or for using another example, right, when it comes to personalization, when you're trying to match people's favorite brands, you can easily get a brand representation in the vector space. So you can use large language models to summarize, okay, what's unique about this brand? And then you immediately generate embeddings of that. And that can be done really, really quickly. So that makes personalization possible like never before. So those all have been really exciting advances that just made Plush possible today.
They're really exciting. You really started at the right time.
At this day and age. Yeah. And then, the models keep getting better. We see that every day.
And you also take all these advancements into account every day. It's just like moving so fast. Yeah, super exciting. Chang, you co-founded Plush with Yingzhu, who is now the CTO. How did you two come together for this venture? And what strength do each of you bring to the table in building this AI-powered fashion platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So my co-founder Ying, so we were actually both on YC co-founder match. It was pretty much like the co-founder dating platform. We just got lucky. She's one of the first people I met through the platform. I remember we, met in person for brunch, and immediately I just felt like she was a fit. It's kind of like dating from perspective, because sometimes you see a person within minutes, you just feel like they're a fit. Maybe it has to do with the fact that she was very fashionable that day, and she was wearing a Bottega bag that I really liked. And also both she and I are Chinese. We're both really tall. Like we're both like about 175. And, I just immediately felt like this like affinity. And another thing about us is, at the time I was a content creator, shot like a style influencer on Instagram, and she fashion photographer. So we also started shooting some content together. So,
nice.
Yeah, we just felt like, on fashion, we were a match. I can tell she's just, passionate about fashion. I immediately realized, hey, this is going to work because we bring a ton of complementary skill sets, but at the same time, we can really talk on the same wavelength. So I do everything that's not core like coding, right? I can do finance, I can do data science, I can do products, and I can maybe like talk to investors. And she does everything coding. She's the one that actually built the product, right? She actually worked on many different teams at Airbnb, and then she just brings with her a ton of experiences. And she also, one thing I like about her is like, she's not just someone who only codes. She actually is also really into the process of like building and fine-tuning a product. And she has such aesthetic eyes. And I think that has to do with the fact that like she is a photographer. Whenever we design a product, after I designed it with the designer, and she would look at it and she will always come up with like a really, really great feedback. I was like, wow, like I've never thought about that before. It's really great to sort of have a partner who can also like give a lot of feedback on the work I was doing. And in the meanwhile, I wasn't just only doing things not related to like the core product. I will help her, for example, fine-tune a prompt. I will help her look at the data that we're labeling for the items in our inventory and help her think through how to make that process better. So even though, I'm not an expert in her domain, she's not an expert in my domain, but we're able to give each other feedback that way. She has a great working style I really like. She's very honest and direct. I wasn't as direct as her, but like after working with her, I'm like, oh, you know what? It's like really great to be able to give each other immediate feedback like that. So yeah, we have developed like a great working relationship.
Amazing. Amazing. That sounds really exciting. Like you two sound really like the perfect match, really like complementing each other and, matching each other's strengths and weaknesses. Really, really cool. And yeah, you spend so much time together, with your co-founder. And it's so important that you get along and that work is just like fun also.
You're essentially your work husband, right?
Exactly.
So it's funny because she actually has the same, the Myers-Briggs personality type. She has the same type as my actual husband. I think that might be one of the reasons why we together so well.
That is so interesting. Look at that. That's so cool. All right. Since launching Plush, how's the journey been for you so far? What kind of response have you seen from users? And are there any big wins, milestones, or feedback so far that you are particularly proud of?
Yeah, definitely. So we've been working on Plush for about a year and a half. I think definitely, similar to a lot of other founders, there have always been ups and downs. I remember just at the beginning, it was, really just like trying to figure out what we're doing the right thing, where we're seeing signals of product market fit. And when we really didn't see that, we were like, we got to keep our heads down and work on the core product, just search and make sure it's really, really good. So we actually had to sort of build our entire system from scratch, build our own sort of proprietary AI-powered hybrid search. And then after we built that and making a few other improvements, we saw that retention 3x from the beginning. So that was definitely a really proud moment, seeing that, okay, like, we are not getting the customer along we wanted, but then after, being heads down and working on the thing we said we're going to do, which is make search drastically better, we actually achieve that goal. And that's like a really, really proud moment. And then I would say I think some other proud moments have always been just like moments from hearing directly from our customers. So a lot of time we'll get customer, emailing us, like commenting on social saying, wow, like, this is like the first fashion tool that actually understands the way my brain thinks about fashion. Never ways like that. We're just like, oh my God, like this just is such a validating moment. It makes everything work because as a founder, there's just always a ton of those rejections you have to deal with, like hardships, moment you don't know what to do.
True.
Hearing that directly from customers have always been like some of the proudest moments.
Yeah. So rewarding. Really, really cool. Yeah, and that makes it all worth, right? As the CEO of an AI fashion startup, what exciting developments are you seeing right now in fashion tech? And if you imagine the shopping experience in 5 to 10 years, what does it look like?
Yeah, I think broadly this whole trend from this whole shift from transactional shopping to more contextual understanding, like mood-based discovery, that has been a trend, fundamentally we've been very excited about at Plush, right? And so I think it's still a learning curve for people, because some people come to Plush, they still say, oh, I want like a brown meaty dress with so-and-so characteristics. It's kind of a bit of learning curve for them to understand, oh, you know what? I can just say I want a structured and chic dress with earthy colors that's good for a Thanksgiving dinner, right? Mm-hmm. That's still a learning curve, but I do think people are already getting much better at it. As in more and more people learn to use tools like ChatGPT, they're realizing that, oh, like tools like Plush can just simply understand inherently very subjective, aesthetic, and contextual preferences in mind, and like translate that into shoppable results. So that has been a trend I'm broadly very excited about. And I do think that, people have been talking about all sorts of trends like, like AI try-ons, like better outfit optimization. But I think personally, I'm being really excited about is number one, just like drastically better personalization, right? So how can you basically get a shopping tool that truly gets you? For me, two keywords are curation and evidence, right? So curation is really important because essentially you don't want these tools to give you hundreds of results, right? And you want to be true. Some tool to help you narrow it down to maybe just like 10 to 20 results. How do we get to a state where, when you say you need a dress for this wedding, Plush will give you only 10 or 20 results. And from that top 20 results, you can find 4 to 5 dresses you're just like, wow, like those are stunning. I'm so excited to buy and like try them on and like wear them, and that's going to be a hard problem to achieve. And at the same time, we also want evidence, which is, okay, tell me why I should like this dress, right? Because a lot of times when you think about like the best shopping experiences, it's never just about like seeing the dress. It's also understanding like what makes it so cool. Like sometimes it's as my favorite influencer just wore this. It looks so good on her, right? Sometimes it's understanding, oh, this kind of ruffle is really in, and like, I want to wear a ruffle like this, similar to the trends I see on the runway. And sometimes understanding, okay, this brand is really, really chic. Like only the insiders are like wearing. I want to be like those like cool insiders wearing like the latest, like hottest brand, right? So if we can get to a stage where Plush can come up with like 5 to 10 dresses that are great, and we explain to you exactly what makes it so great, so cool to wear, and getting really excited, I think that's the end stage I want to get to. And for that to happen, we not only have to have really great personalization, but also have a, AI tool that thinks like a fashion editor, right? We're not just figure out what you're trying to wear, but also we're kind of dictating a little bit what you should wear, right? Objective view on like what's cool. And like, we're trying to like understanding preferences, but at the same time, like a fashion magazine, tell you, what are the trends? So that's something I'm really excited about. And I think another trend I'm really, really excited about is basically, how do you build truly a shopping experience that doesn't feel like work? People have been talking about this idea of agentic shopping, right? Where agents just understand you so well that they shop on your behalf. But I think we need to define like what that means, because I think people sometimes forget is shopping is a inherently joyful process, right? There's a lot of joy in the hunt itself, right? A lot of women don't like to be able to be handed like 1 or 2 stages, be told like, okay, that's the thing you should wear.
Agreed.
Right. So how do you design this sort of experience where it's people are only browsing beautiful things that they would like, but, something that doesn't take the joy of browsing away, because there is a lot of inherent joy in browsing and just looking at beautiful things. I do think that designing that kind of ultimate shopping experiences where it doesn't feel like infinite scrolling, but it is still delightful. It's a model that like everyone in the industry needs to figure out. And I think, the end goal is definitely not this like complete agentic shopping where, we don't get to participate in the process. I think fashion lovers will still want to look at beautiful things.
Yes, definitely. Since Plush lets users search for very specific things, I have to ask a fun one. What's the quirkiest or most memorable search query you've seen a user enter, or that you've tried yourself? Maybe something that made you laugh or think, wow, that is specific. And did Plush manage to find a good match for it?
Yeah, definitely. We see them almost every day. There's so many quirky ones. I would say one of them, I remember just recently, there was a user that said, I got invited to a wedding where the dress code is upstage the bride. How do I find dresses like that without actually upstaging the bride? So I was like, oh, wow, that's such a challenging question because, yeah, you want to wear something super memorable like for that location, the weather. But at the same time, you don't want it to be like overboard. You don't want to be like too revealing or something. We actually, I think I did a pretty good job on that one. And then I think the most memorable ones are always the ones where the user actually was willing to be vulnerable with us. I remember there was this woman that searched, I got invited to this black tech gala in the city and really want to dress to impress, but I'm also 3 months postpartum. Like, how do I find a dress that like doesn't really accentuate my belly, but also, black tie or even white tie appropriate? So I thought we did a really good job because we actually showed her dresses, those formal gowns without a defined waist. So that, you can find really structural, beautiful silhouettes that doesn't actually accentuate your belly. So that was a really, really proud moment for me.
Amazing. Amazing. So cool that Plush could deliver even with these very, very specific, very personal requests.
Yeah. I think most people don't realize is, we can accommodate so many nuanced criteria. Things like we see people searching for like inseam length for jeans, and that we can accommodate too, right? Because some people might be really tall, really short. They just want a particular inseam for jeans, which traditional shopping just doesn't accommodate. So we can do that. Some people care a lot about natural materials, no synthetics. We can do that as well. And then some people just like only want dresses that have a fitted but flexible waist. So all of those things we can deliver. And the more you use it, the better it gets.
Thank you so much, Chang, for that super inspiring conversation. That was Chang Liu, co-founder and CEO of Plush. I loved hearing how she combined her background in finance, data science, and product with her passion for fashion to build something truly innovative. The story is such a powerful reminder the best companies often start with a personal frustration and the courage to solve it. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to She Builds with AI for more inspiring conversations with women who are reimagining industries with technology. And if you'd like to learn more about Chang and Plush, you can find all links in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, keep building with purpose and keep building with AI.